Hey guys, Evan Laux here for Motorcycle and Powersports News. As you can see, we're at the Crawford Museum in Cleveland, Ohio, and behind me is this 1950 Velocette MAC, and it's your Ride of the Week. So guys, I'm here with John Lutsch, and if you've never heard of Velocette, you can kind of get the idea here that it's a British bike. You know, from that time period, they all kind of have the same sort of paint scheme that we were just talking about, the black and gold, like the Vincents. You can see the black prints in the background there. But to people who haven't heard of Velocette, could you give a short little history synopsis of that brand?
Sure. And if I can't, I'll just invent something. But no, the Velocette's had a long history in Great Britain of being very technically sophisticated motorcycles. Not as sophisticated really as a Vincent or like a Brough Superior or something like that, which are kind of in the stratosphere. But these bikes had a very, very significant racing career, and a lot of that racing technology found their way into the road bikes. Okay. So they were very, very well constructed. This one is a 350cc single, but you can see with the arrangement of the seats and the general engine configuration that it really, even though it's a 1950 motorcycle, it has a lot of styling cues and a lot of technology that relates directly back into the like 1930s, late 1930s. Okay. So there's an interesting kind of aesthetic mechanical carryover from that time period. Velocette lasted really up until just the end of the 1950s, I believe, before the Japanese bikes kind of came in and really rearranged the British dominance of motorcycles. They were very prominent in terms of racing, especially in racing. A lot of the more sophisticated road bikes, they all went to the British standard, but until the 1960s, when Japan started to make very affordable, very reliable bikes, these guys were the kings. Mm-hmm. And we were talking a little bit before we got on camera here that there's a lot of little unique qualities about this bike that make it kind of unique, quirky. You got the springs on the passenger seat there. You got kind of a unique exhaust that will show. It's on the other side of the bike. And as far as the motor goes, there's some interesting aspects of that as well. One of the things that most people don't realize is that these bikes, along with the Vincents and other British bikes, had a lever here on the bars that is this little tiny, it looks like a little tiny brake lever, and most people just don't even see it. They just go right past it. And what it is it actually is a decompression lever for the engine. You pull that in, you kick the engine over to get some fuel going in the carb and everything, and on a secondary kick it becomes much easier for the bike to start. Okay. So that's what the extra lever there is for. Most people have never seen those before because they don't use them anymore at all. Mm-hmm. On the one hand, there's a really interesting aspect of this bike on the other side, on the right-hand side, and it's called a fishtail exhaust. And when you see it, the name is absolutely appropriate. Mm-hmm. It actually harkens back to about the 1920s. Okay. You would see them on motorcycles. You would also see them on automobiles, and sometimes they were called Brooklands exhausts. And it was just it really wasn't form following function. It was just more of an aesthetic design. Right. There was no added performance benefit or anything like that. It just looked great. Yeah. And so this bike, kind of keep in mind that it's a 1950. We're not that too far out of World War II. The economy in Great Britain was struggling to keep up. So, they looked backwards to, kind of build on existing designs, and that really wonderful fishtail exhaust was kind of a real interesting part of the past history that they incorporated into this machine. And I'm curious to know, since we were talking about Vincent's a little bit ago, how, British bikes of that era, do they all kind of share those same little, quirky design elements? How similar is this to, the black prints right there and the other Vincent bikes you have? It's similar in its aesthetics and also some of the quality components. But this is kind of like comparing, I would say, like an MG to a Rolls Royce. Okay. They all do the same thing, but if you look at the way that the componentry is designed, the quality of the materials that's gone into it, and ultimately the performance and the value, that's a pretty good comparison. The Vincents have a wonderful reputation, and it's completely deserved. They are remarkable motorcycles, and I can point out to you a little bit later just how different the Vincent is from a bike like this, and being only separated by a couple of years. There's a huge difference.
And you said this bike would be used for racing?
Yeah, not this one in particular, but a bike that was completely stripped down. But Velocette was they were kind of the name to beat for a long time in British racing, road racing in particular, like the Isle of Man, the Tourist Trophy, things like that. They were very, very competitive.
Do you have any idea, like with the single-cylinder bike like this at high speeds, was this a comfortable ride, or did these have a lot of vibrations?
I don't know. I'm not really sure. I think that any thumper is going to be a little bit bouncy, because you can only counterweight the piston with so much counterbalance on the crankshaft. But I think that's why the big twins started to supersede these in terms of racing.
Right. Well, John, is there anything else on the bike here that's unique or worth pointing out before we end the video here?
I think we pretty much covered it, unless you want to get a close-up of the tail light, which actually says stop.
Yeah, we were just kind of making fun of that before the video started, because it has a little, we'll show it on camera here, but it's kind of funny once you see it. Well, John, thanks again for showing us this bike.
Sure.
This beautiful 1950 Velocette MAC. Guys, thanks for watching. It's been another great ride of the week, and make sure you're following MPN for some awesome motorcycle content. Thanks for watching.
Thanks.